I hate that I can't see you and you can't see me, but I'm,
well,
as you know, doing the last minute.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about that because I know you don't want to get too specific, but this is so emblematic of Trump's America. So you called me yesterday. Just explain what's happening, Olivia.
So yes, I call you because you know me. I'm very by the book. I'm like, okay, I got to make the show. This is what's happened. And it's a family that I love dearly, that I know well, and that I care about. And yesterday on Memorial Day, ICE showed up in front of their house and took the dad away.
Oh, my God.
It's terrible.
And this person has no criminal record.
Of course not. Yeah.
They are... So I'm actually heading up because I want to be there with the spouse and his 3-year-old little boy, and to meet with the lawyer and really understand what's happening here and figuring out what happens next. We spent yesterday trying to figure out what facility he was sent to, because obviously in today's world and the America that we're living in, we have no idea if he's going to get put on a plane and shipped off and his wife and son are never going to see him again.
Olivia, and this is when we're finding, what is it, at least 50 of the people we put in a concentration camp in El Salvador, we're here legally and have no criminal record of any kind. So, this is what happens when your head of Homeland Security doesn't know what habeas corpus is, right?
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you, I saw his wife didn't even know that he had been taken. We watched the Ring camera footage. A colleague of his came in, running in, and said they'd taken him. And she sent me the footage. We watched it. It was horrific. It was several unmarked vehicles showed up. There was nothing shown, no paperwork, no ID. We watched the whole thing. They just loaded him up in the car.
So what, I'm sure, you actually were a very powerful figure in an administration. What does it feel like now to just all of us feel sort of powerless? Like what are you going to try to do? I mean, because I know I've read a couple of your pieces where you talk about how dire things are, but you always urge people to fight back however they can. So just talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know their rights and to really understand what is happening here. I mean, in the video, I hear him saying, call my lawyer, please call my lawyer. They didn't call in the moment. And I think people need to be prepared for these situations because it's very real. And I know we've been trying to educate people and tell them that it is. And I'm someone that works in Homeland Security. I obviously believe in legal immigration, and I believe that, yes, there are bad people out there. But there are also really good, hardworking people who are paying their taxes, abiding by the law, going through the immigration process, however it is. And we have people basically disappearing off the streets now, and I don't know where this ends, because I think this is incredibly dangerous and also just sort of where the rule of law is, right, and what it encourages, the type of behavior. And so, I'm going there just because I want to be there in the meeting with the attorney and understand what happens next, and I want to understand where this individual is at every step of the way. And I think that is important for all of us to be paying attention to this, because when you think, it's not going to happen to that family, or it's not going to be happening to someone that it is. It's happening. And how many other cases do we not know about?
Right. Yeah, and how many people aren't lucky enough to have Olivia Troy advocate for them, or don't have an Olivia Troy in their life? It's just, you threaded last week, Trump placed over 100 National Security Council staffers on leave, Marco Rubio doing his bidding. The NSC is where our government connects the dots between threats, diplomacy, and defense. It was built to protect America. Now it's being hollowed out. This isn't reform, it's sabotage. And, you've written the same about, cancer research. You said, as Biden fights cancer, science is being discarded, the data dump that could kill us. You were very doomy. And you said this is not a drill. They're coming for Medicaid. Yeah. Olivia, not to put too fine a point on it, but it could not be more dire on every front in terms of Homeland Security.
It is. I know. It's so dark, and I think it's just, there's a lot of things happening, I think, that are, some of them are harder to understand, right? For example, the National Security Council. I wrote that piece because I thought it was important to explain, yes, this may seem like a very distant entity to most people, to most Americans. They don't really understand, what's that building next to the White House? What do they do? But for example, that's the building where people hold a daily meeting, a secure civet, traditionally, right? And that's where we actually talk about ongoing threats around the world, or a potential bomb attack, or something that's happening overseas, and we're tracking what's going to happen here. And these are actual real-time things that are happening in coordination that are meant to secure and protect the American people. And I think gutting it, sending 100 people on leave, reducing it to half the size, these are people that have served, understand their roles, and are there simply really to actually just do the work in a nonpartisan way. And it's upsetting. Marco Rubio, the reason I mention him is because he knows better, because he placed people on that staff during the first Trump administration. He knows exactly the functions, but he's just there as a henchman.
How does it make you feel to hear this morning? Germany, England, and France all have travel warnings for visiting America. I mean, let's let that sink in.
We're that country.
Yeah, we are that country. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're that country.
Yeah.
And that is heartbreaking. And I think the one thing is that I hope that there are a lot of people out there that were like, oh, this is hyperbolic. Yeah, Project 2025, they might do that, they may not. I don't know. I guess we had to live it and get through this, and I just hope that people really understand, regardless of where you are politically, if you really believe in the rule of law, and you believe in maybe just, general health care in general, or taking care of each other, then this is really our wake-up call, and that's, that's if we can get someone else in later on.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your piece about cancer and just connecting it to, President Biden's struggle. You just said in Trump's second term, the war on science isn't a headline, it's a policy. You talked about Biden's cancer diagnosis. You said you're watching an administration dismantle the very systems that Biden helped build. It's hard not to feel the weight of what's being lost, not just in funding, but in values. They've gutted federal funding for crucial medical research, ALS studies, cancer trials, long COVID data, neurological disease mapping. You said the question no one in Trump's circle seems to be asking is, what happens to the data? The answer, no one really knows, and that should terrify all of us. I've spent my career inside government responding to national crises. I know firsthand how vital real-time data is, whether you're fighting a pandemic, tracking disease clusters, or identifying early warning signs of a public health threat. When you erase that infrastructure, you don't just waste taxpayer dollars, you erase lives. Mm-hmm. This isn't just bureaucratic negligence, it's public health sabotage. I mean, there's so much happening simultaneously that's so horrific. But, I mean, literally, Olivia, who voted to cut cancer research? It has touched all of our lives. Do you know a person whose family hasn't been touched by cancer?
No, I don't. I mean, part of the inspiration for this piece is I was having a conversation with someone who does a lot of advocacy for ALS people, too. And they really started me thinking, because they said, hey, there's been so much research that has happened throughout the years on cancer, on rare diseases, on ALS, which affects a lot of veterans. They literally have been to meetings and they have no idea what's happening to the data. Where is it going? Is it just, we're going to lose all of that decades of research of things like that they've advanced. Where is it going? Where will it be preserved? Is a private organization going to get it to continue the funding? Right? These are all questions that people have.
And Olivia, one of the things you spoke out about is the first Trump administration's disastrous response to COVID. And now you write 25% of the CDC's budget is being slashed, gutting programs for vaccine outreach, emergency preparedness, disease forecasting, even opioid abuse prevention. You said on the chopping block, initiatives to combat chronic illnesses like heart disease, diabetes, which remain the leading causes of death in the U.S., Alzheimer's, that I lost my mother to, dementia research. I think it's hard to really wrap our minds around. And then, you look at what's happening at Harvard and the brain drain. It is like you say, it's not hyperbole. It's hard to understate this, isn't it?
I think this is going to have ramifications for decades.
Yeah.
Right. We are going to see this impact. And there's still layers of things that are being impacted that we probably don't even know, and we won't even know for years. I was having a conversation with a former colleague from the National Security Council who is literally beside himself because he told me he went in, met with some people there, and he's like, it's clear that they have gotten rid of most of the experts and they have no idea what they're up against. And he's like, my biggest fear is when a crisis hits, I have no idea who's on first, how they're going to manage this. And it's very real. I mean, it's going to have real world implications.
Oh, hey there, it's Stephanie Miller. If you're like me and you love sharp political insight, pointy, you like it pointy and sharp, bold opinions, and a touch of humor to make sense of these crazy times, have I got some fantastic news for you. The Political Voices Network is now on Substack. This is your new go-to for the best in independent media. We're talking about my show streaming daily with episodes on demand, the fearless of journalism of Brian Karem, the brilliant side-splitting satire of John Fugelsang, the unrelenting working class advocacy of Rick Smith, and so much more. Here's the best part. Subscribing is so easy. You can join for free or go to the extra mile. Support these incredible independent voices by signing up for a full subscription starting at just $8. You'll get access to exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and a chance to directly fuel fearless, unfiltered media. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to politicalvoicesnetwork.com, hit that subscribe button, and become part of the movement keeping truth alive in an era of corporate media overload. Every subscription helps, especially yours. One more time, that is politicalvoicesnetwork.com. Sign up now. Do it.